and welcome back to another edition of Rent Money. This is a super special episode for all you listeners out there today. Texas Pete is riding the waves down in the Caribbean. He's on a cruise. Him and his lovely lady, Mrs. Pete, huge cruise people. And so we're joined by none other than the D-Man today. The D-Man out of the University of Iowa is joining Old Chisholm and myself, Running Back Jones. Old Chisholm and I have had the D-Man in our corner for a long time. We're going to kick it back to the lunchroom table and just talk some sports today, like you used to back in your adolescence. It's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe a little light on the picks, a little light on the muscle. But you know what? We didn't have a lot of muscle back then, and that's probably when we had our best sports knowledge. So it is what it is. We're pretty excited to talk about last week's games, give a few picks, and then talk all things CFP, our gripes, and the D-Man's gripes on life. You know, some people have referred to this as his therapy session. He gets one a year. He doesn't pay for therapy, so this is his one chance to get it all out. But speaking of therapy and speaking about what you should do with your mentals, I'm going to kick it over to Old Chisholm to talk about why the month of November is very important to us at Rent Money.
Yes, sir. As you guys can see, the stash is coming into swashbuckler form. We're getting there. But November, as I refer to it, Movember, we are raising funds once again in the name of all things men's health. We're targeting 3 specific avenues. That would be suicide prevention and mental health awareness. That would be testicular as well as prostate cancer. All things that are making men leave us just a little bit sooner than they should, or sooner than we can let them. We got to get it, as much shareholder value out of each and every individual as we possibly can. So help us out. I know I've got a few different links on my personal pages. You can find those all through the pop-off page as well. But appreciate everybody for the support so far. I think we're upwards of about $2,000 raised. So doing really, really good job so far. And I know, if we could get that last little push, it would be awesome to end the month on a bang. So go check out Team JV Forever on the Movember page, or check out my links. And thank you guys for the support.
Absolutely. Go and check all of those out. If you are dealing with a tough time, first of all, talk to your friends. Second of all, look into today's presenting sponsor, Vienna Beef. Yeah, sure, summer's over, but Vienna Beef time never stops. Vienna Beef is good throughout the winter. It doesn't only need to be grilled. It can be boiled, microwaved, cooked on a stove. However you like it, Vienna Beef is going to give you that snap. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more than your regular dog, look no further than Vienna Beef. Best snap in town. Doll that thing up. Do it Chicago style for the people one time. And enjoy a Vienna Beef dog. Thank you for Vienna Beef for sponsoring this podcast. We'd also like to thank one of our other presenting sponsors, Dude Wipes. Dude Wipes today. Texas Pete is out of town. That means there's going to be no Texas Pete's Texas Play of the Week, sponsored by Dude Wipes. And so they need to get their shout out as well. Shout out to Dude Wipes. Keeping bung holes clean from the east to the west, all throughout the United States. Appreciate you, Dude Wipes. All right, let's get to it.
I got one more.
Oh, Old Chisholm, go ahead.
Yeah, these guys they slid into our mailbox, but it kind of tied in with the theme of Movember, and that's from more of a medical side. So here goes. They sent me a little ad read here. Feeling like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, like life's got a treadmill stuck on max incline, and you forgot your water bottle. Yeah, we've all been there, but hey, what if there's a way to take some of that edge off? Enter Cymbalta. Cymbalta is a prescription medication designed to help manage depression, anxiety, and even chronic pain. It's like a multi-tool for your mental health, but remember, it's not just some magic wand. Results take time, and it's all about finding what works for you. Now, let's be real for a second. Cymbalta isn't for everyone. Side effects, there are things, so check in with your doctor there. But for a lot of people, it's been a real game changer. Kind of like discovering that guacamole is extra before you get to the checkout line. Am I right, guys?
Yeah, right about that.
So if you've ever been looking for a way to turn the volume down on stress and pain, talk to your doctor about Cymbalta, because life's tough enough. You deserve some backup in your corner. Thank you,
Fuck
Cymbalta.
yeah, dude. All right, some Balts are coming in hot in the month of November. I did not know we had that one planned. I apologize, Old Chisholm, for not kicking it to you. We appreciate all of our sponsors here at the podcast. As Old Chisholm said, please consult your doctor and not running back Jones or Chisholm before making that decision, and or especially D-man. Not D-man. All right, let's kick it. Woo! All right, D-man, this is your time to shine, baby. We're going to start with you. Last week, we had a lot of good games, a lot on the slate. And I know one game that Old Chisholm and I were on the wrong side of off the bat was Oregon going into Camp Randall and having to stress one out against the Wisconsin Badgers, 16-13. What a game. Wisconsin did everything that they could in their power to keep this one close, mucking it up, making it nasty at home. The crowd's getting loud. But Oregon showed some grit and pulled it out by 3 points. To Old Chisholm and I, we were dead in the waters from the get-go. I think we had, 13 and a half Chisholm. But some people are teasers around here, and that might be you, D-man.
Yeah, so first thing I want to say is if my mic does not work well during this podcast, anyone listening has full permission to drive to Denver, Colorado, and shoot me. So I've just been upset with the mic that we've had on this podcast in the past. Sometimes I come off sounding like I'm in a tunnel, and I want to be clear and concise today. That's my first statement. But to your point, Jack, I did tease that Oregon game as a part of a 3-leg parlay. And it was the final leg to hit. I had Oregon minus 3.5. It was 16-13 in the fourth quarter. I am at one of our friends, Peter Easler's place here in Denver, sitting next to a man named Skylar Reesberg. I think some people.
Some good name dropping here. Box Out Boy host himself.
Reesberg and the spooky guy.
Yeah, so Berg sitting next
to me. This guy's got friends. D-Man's got friends.
He's a popular guy.
I'm a really popular guy. A lot of people are jealous. But yeah, I'm sitting there.
The most popular guy.
They line up for this fucking field goal, and I turn to Berg like, okay, this is it. Like, it's a fucking 25-yarder, and time's winding down in the fourth. Just nail this bitch. Hold Wisconsin on defense, and then you walk away with a 6-point win. I think it was like 4th and 5 or 6. They run a fake, and you just hear Berg in the background like, oh no. And I just throw something at the ground, put my head down. They don't even get it. They don't even get
Marcus, at what age is that kind of reaction unacceptable? When do you kind of find yourself a better man, as Eddie Vedder once sang, and control those emotions within
you? There's not really an age. I would say there's a time period. I would say between the ages of 40 and 60. Probably.
Okay. 2 age points. Got it.
It's about the time when she dreams in colors. Right?
No.
What the fuck?
Then. Let's try to quote Better Man.
Oh, that was on me.
Such a good song, dude. You teed it up, and I was like,
I met Eddie once. Good guy.
Did you?
Yeah, I met him outside of Wrigley.
Did you tell him your name, or did you just say hello?
None of the above.
I shook his hand, said hello. He was smoking a cigarette out in the patio. Nice guy, yeah.
No, good.
Nice guy.
Did they fly the W that day?
No
games were played, huh? Or was there a game day?
No, it was after a game. We did fly the W. We did. Yep, we did.
Unlike this weekend. Well, hey, that's okay. You can't always fly the W. You know who else didn't fly the W this weekend? Was BYU losing to the Jayhawks and tumbling in the college football rankings. Maybe we can talk about that when we get to that segment. But first reactions from the game. I mean, it has been a long time coming for this BYU team. They've been walking on a tightrope for a while now. So it's not surprising. Vegas was all over it. The line was tight. But huge loss for a BYU team. Clears up some things, but makes some things more confusing too as well.
Yeah, if the Arizona State-Colorado game now means probably more than any Big 12 any Big 12 matchup has been played this year, because if Arizona State wins, there's like 5 teams in contention for the championship game, or maybe it's the opposite. But if Colorado wins, and Colorado's like locked in for the Big 12, so
big time.
we'll see how that game goes. But
Also,
also
Desmond Howard will be on the game day set and say, "Who gives a shit about this game?" Did you see that?
I saw that. That was the Kansas State Arizona State game he was talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally. He's like, "Why do we
outrageous.
have this on the rundown?" Well, they're both 7-2. You dipshit.
God, I want to save all these. I want to save all these thoughts and explosions. That's a great call.
We'll have that be a segment. Let's have that be a segment a little later on for sure. It's just
real quick.
Here's some shit.
I'm just gonna run through these games, these recaps.
Can I say my piece about BYU really quick? Though?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because they're having a very similar. There's a very strong correlation here with BYU's win probability and playoff percentage, kind of peaking towards the end, but then dropping very suddenly. And it reminds me a lot of the chances of a Mormon actually receiving salvation. So when you go through their life, apparently it has its perks to be an elder within, the Mormon community.
The secret lives of Mormon wives.
Exactly. The Latter-day Saints and the like. But then as soon as you get to the gates of heaven, you realize, oh no, we put a little too much stock into this Joe Smith guy and not enough into this Jesus Christ guy, right? So that seems to be an issue, and that's what you're seeing right now from the Cougs. So we'll see if they can fix it down in Provo.
That's interesting that you say that about the Cougar team. What do you think about their quarterback, Jake Retzlaff, proud Jew?
BYU, yeah, talked about him very early in the season. I was on that, like stink on shit. Probably like week 2. Nobody paid enough mind, but boy, are they paying attention now. What an NIL fund that is.
All right. Well, let's get to these quick little recaps of the games. Georgia cleans up against Tennessee at Rocky Top. God damn, we've been saying it all for a while now. Old Chisholm, what do you think? I mean, we're a pro Nico Pod, but he just hasn't had the juice in these big moments against these good defenses for a while now. That game went under by a half point, thank the Lord. But Kirby, for all that bitching, God damn it, we got to save that for the next segment. For our own bitching and whining segment.
For our own bitching and whining.
How about Navy continues to slide? I just wanted to call this game out. Tulane wins 35-0, knocking Notre Dame's second best win, down a peg a little bit. Poor Navy. We're rooting for you. Clemson takes care of business against Pittsburgh. They're going to be around. Let's see.
That game was drunk as shit. I don't know if any of you guys watched the end of it, but Cade Klubnik looking like a track star was not on my bingo card for the end of that game.
That's something I do want to talk about real quickly, is that quarterbacks just consistently will blow you away with their straight line speed.
Yeah.
Like once they get out, and like even the Peyton Mannings of the bunch, like one of those all-time slowest quarterbacks, you get him out there in an open field, he starts running like a horse. Those big guys get moving.
Big Ben used to run like a Clydesdale, dude.
Yeah.
Not a big Ben fan?
Not really, no. He wasn't that.
You can't deny that he looked like a Budweiser horse, though, when he had full speed going.
He was a big dog, I mean, one of my favorite songs, quotes, Big Ben. I don't know if I can say it on this podcast, actually.
Legally, you can't, yeah.
Old Chisholm used to go in and bleep some stuff out, but now that we're just rocking live, D-Man.
He does this sometimes. No, that's on him.
Okay.
You just got to pretend like he's not.
Yeah, so what's the name of that song? Come on. Eminem.
Almost Famous, isn't it?
Almost Famous, yeah. Yeah. So if anyone wants to look up the opening line to that song, Almost Famous by Eminem.
Got a good live version of that on the way to seminary, actually, up at St. Thomas University. Go Tommies.
Go Tommies. So another thing I wanted to quickly touch on while Jack figures his shit out.
Touch it, man.
Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah.
For the love of God. I can never trust Chris Penishead Williams ever in my life. He is such an idiot when it comes to college football. But
Hey, D-Man, why don't you set the scene? Who is Chris Williams for
Yeah.
those that might not know? I don't know if everybody's as acutely aware.
Chris Williams was a radio guy in Des Moines, Iowa for about a decade. And he really started up this website called Cyclone Fanatic, which was, as you can imagine, for Cyclone fans, basically a blog. And this guy, I'd never had heard of him until he starts up Iowa Everywhere, which is essentially a local media company in Des Moines. And he's like the mastermind behind it. He's bringing in these big radio type names. They're doing these cool podcasts. Him and Chris Hassel have two guys named Chris on the Iowa Everywhere Radio Network, or podcast network, sorry. And it's an incredible show. Really enjoy him. I think that me and him align on a lot of aspects. He loves country music. He loves NASCAR. As you know, I'm a huge NASCAR fan. He loves college football, and he loves drinking. So all of these things really,
A lot of boxes getting checked here.
yeah, he's my type of guy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he might be. I can drop F-bombs, right?
Yeah, you can say those.
Yeah, approved.
He might be the worst fucking college football analyst I have ever seen in my life, or gambler, whatever you want to call it.
Handicapper, any of those will work here.
I mean, we could go through a number of picks.
Ball watcher.
As of 2 weeks ago, he was 9-19 on his picks, which is terrible. But he's like, Matt Rule, that son of a bitch, can coach when he goes to Nebraska. What has he done? Just absolutely sucked.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame. He's like, oh my God, he's going to win multiple national championships down there. No. And unfortunately, I trusted him on the LSU thing, so I've just been kind of riding on Brian Kelly. It's not.
How much have you listened to this podcast? Because I think we've been anti-Kelly from the get-go, D-Man.
I've been anti-Kelly since he was at Notre Dame, actually. So.
Yeah, LSU.
His quarterback is second in terms of interceptions in the FBS. Just want to let you guys know that.
LSU's a shit team. That's best win was USC, like in the earliest of the season
on a neutral site.
They lost. Okay, who'd they beat? Who did LSU beat?
Ole Miss.
That's right. They beat Ole Miss. They beat Ole Miss, and they lost to A&M. They lost to Bama.
Yep.
That's the whole point. And let's get into it. Let's just go right to the college football playoff, because I think that's what we want to talk about. That's what's monopolizing the discussion of this sport. It has turned into a regional warfare.
Oh my God,
playoff.
I'm ready.
Elon Musk has taken over everything. He's got number 45, number 47 in the office. He's taken over X, aka Twitter, and now he's taken over my timeline because I must have clicked on so much anti-SEC stuff that all I get is anti-SEC on my Twitter feed. I'm trying to stay rational, but I just remember that all these SEC fans down there in the South are going to get the exact opposite of my timeline. Everything that they could find clowning Indiana, clowning Notre Dame, clowning Miami, anybody that's not a part of the SEC. And let's get to it. I mean, fucking goddamn. All right, we're going to run through the rankings real quick. The top 12 teams, and then we can just talk in circles, because that's what the College Football Playoff Committee has done. That's what the 12-team playoff has become. We're going to go under the covers. We're going to check on some balls. All right. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State. We're going to pause there. Indiana, Notre Dame, Alabama, Miami. Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Boise State. But Boise State is ranked 12th. Don't worry, folks. They're actually going to be the 4th seed that gets a bye. So what does that leave us? SMU and BYU are 13 and 14. So there's not a single Big 12 team in the top 14 right now, which means currently speaking, number 11, Tennessee would be out of the playoffs. Oh, my God. Have you ever seen Pro Nico Podcast? Have you ever seen a group of people lose their minds more because they can't get 5 out of the 8 at-large bids? If you're the 5th best team in your conference, I don't feel bad for you. I have no sympathy If you wanted to be in the playoffs, be better than the 5th best team in your conference.
There's nothing funnier to me than watching SEC, all these old heads freak out. Okay.
Paul,
I understand. You know, you can sit there and you can tell me all day how Kentucky would beat the brakes off of Penn State or whatever stupid bullshit that you're going to hear from the deep South. Oh, God. Got indigestion just thinking about. Yeah. I'd tell you guys what. Nothing makes more sense to me than a group of people that invented a college football playoff for the sole purpose of them having more teams represented, right? Then take a step back and say, we want to do this 12-team playoff because we want things to be settled on the field. We don't want to deal with hypotheticals anymore. We just want it to get settled on the field, only to then less than a year later, after this initially is implemented and it's being tried and tested out before our very eyes, only now do they look up and they say, actually, here's a bunch of hypothetical scenarios that should determine who gets to actually decide what happens on the field. Like, no, a lot has happened already. You can tell me that there should be, 5 SEC teams in this thing, and I'm going to look you dead in the eyes and say I would rather see a team from every single group of conference play. And that's just who I am, right? I'm a guy that believes in, letting the little man go out there, grab his slingshot and take Goliath down, right? I was raised on the belt, the Bible, and Shawn Michaels every Monday night on Monday Night Raw. All right. That's just who I am. But yeah, for you guys are full of shit here in the Southeastern Conference.
I'm going to propose a thought here.
I'll allow it.
Do you think that this controversy and the fact that we have a selection committee for the college football playoff, actually, despite we get pissed at it, we're talking about it right now. There's so many shows across the country all week, every week, talking about it. Does it make it more interesting? Does it make it more fun?
Yes, to both. Yes.
Okay. I've been thinking about this all week.
Let me give you the alternative. We have it.
That's a good question.
We have it set up like the NFL, where you have like these little divisions, kind of like what Caps was saying the other week.
This guy listens.
Divisions, yeah, these divisions, and we're really just focused on who's going to make the playoff based off of some mathematical formula versus this committee. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good point, Marcus, and the fact that in every professional sport, which college football is becoming more professionalized each week, there isn't people, sure, they might complain at times, but if the NFC West teams, for example, I mean, just hypothetical here, a team is, 10-7 and makes the playoffs. Okay, let's say the division is really bad. They're 8-9 and they make the playoffs. There might be some hand wringing, but nobody's asking for them to redo the entire playoffs. It's like, you know what? You won your division, you make the playoffs, right? And I think we have some of that in college football, but I also think we're lacking a lot of the nuance as well of, like, I want to ask the question about Indiana real quick, too. And I don't want to brush by your point, Marcus, because I think it's a really good one. I think you could go down that rabbit hole a lot of ways of, like, how do we create a more of a system without a committee? Indiana's 10-0, and we saw them turn into a good story to now they're all of a sudden the bane of existence because I feel like SEC media is pushing a team that is not a national powerhouse, has not traditionally been somebody you would look at as a football program, is going to take a spot away from one of their schools. What do you guys think about Indiana as a team being ranked 5-0, going into Ohio State this weekend? Like, what do you think needs to play out for Indiana to be a part of this playoff? And what do you think about Indiana just as a team and like their deservingness to be a part of this playoff?
I think it all goes back to exactly the thought and the sentiment that I had on the preseason pod, which is when we were talking about when we get to this point of time in the year, is the committee going to value good wins or good losses more? Because you're seeing them try to juggle both right now. There's no losses for Indiana, and yet Penn State is going to be ahead of them, right? Why is that?
Make that make sense.
Make that make sense. You can't.
Who is Penn State beating?
Exactly, number one. But number two, if
that Indiana hasn't,
if Indiana goes and loses to Ohio State by like 10, you can't put them behind Penn State because Penn State did the exact same thing. It was a touchdown and they were at home. So like, at what point are we going to call a spade and just say that there is favoritism, right? These decisions are made in part due to generating interest nationally, generating viewership, generating all of the mainstream media clickbait bullshit articles, right? It's all happening before our very eyes, and we can't act like we didn't see this coming because it's the same people that made the decisions last year. However, what we can do is sit around and say, hey, maybe if you're an active AD of a university, you're not allowed to be on this committee, right? You might have some bias. And that's just, thank you. That's
bring back the computers.
Bring back a computer. My computer wife, Karen, shout out to all the old heads that know. Oh, hey,
D-Man, I'm sure you got a lot swirling around your head, but riddle me this. What's the difference between a 9-1 SMU team whose worst loss is at BYU and a 9-1 Notre Dame team whose worst loss is at home against Northern Illinois?
Right.
Notre Dame has more money and power.
That's just not true.
Actually,
than SMU.
SMU has a lot.
Okay.
They do have a lot. But
SMU has more money, I think less power.
Falling from grace, correct. Exactly.
Maybe not more money. They both got a lot of money.
Pony excess, baby. Yeah.
But I guess they just have like more influence like Notre Dame does. And wait,
more views.
Remind me, Notre Dame is sitting at 6, but SMU is at
13.
Are you shitting me? Wow, that's pretty bad.
The thing is, go ahead.
Okay, there's a big thing with recency bias. Like these humans forget that Northern Illinois game even happened. I mean, they're just watching 100%. Notre Dame, especially because the way that Notre Dame is going out each week and just kicking the shit
and they have been.
Teams. So like, it's impressive.
And recency bias isn't anything new. I think.
That's too bad. Recency
bias. I'm sure
he's
saying some good shit.
Yeah, well, it is nothing new. That is true.
It's not. And I will say this, though. Like, Notre Dame is going to be a team that we talk about in this capacity, in this light, just like this, every single year because of the fact that they don't have the ability to have that first round bye as a conference champion. People are mad about that Notre Dame just gets – I was reading a lot of SEC heads talking about how it's unfair that Notre Dame gets to just walk into the 5 seed every year. And I was like, first of all, pal, no, they don't. Like, they're a college football team just like you and I, cheering for our teams, right? They have to go out. They have to be able to win games, even the ones that – shouldn't even be close. And, when they lose to NIU, they should be punished for that. There should be a dock to their seating, all of those things. But at the same time, if you're going to look me in the eyes and say that one loss is justification for them being ranked lower than 8, I think you could rank them higher because on the flip side, say they go out and they beat this team like they did against Miami, Ohio. They beat them by 20, right? It's just a boring, uneventful, bad game, but they win. Where does Notre Dame rank now? Are they locked in as the 5 seed? Because I wouldn't put them there. I'd still probably have them right around where they are right now.
We're gonna keep this exercise going real quick, Chisholm.
Let me just respond to that real quick. Notre Dame is playing one of the easiest fucking schedules I've ever seen, and they have 2 true road games, maybe 3. Like, they are walking into the 5 seed. They lost to Northern Illinois, and they're probably going to get it. Like,
no, they won't get the 5 with that.
We're gonna continue this exercise, and I think it's gonna get to my point, which also applies to Notre Dame. All right, we got Bama at 7. They have 2 losses, right, including the one against Vandy as a 21-point favorite. You look at Miami. Miami's taking a loss here and has played, close games a lot of the times with Cam Ward's superheroes being responsible for that. Ole Miss, we just talked about it, lost to an LSU team that's 6-4. Like, is that LSU team so great? You play a super tough schedule in the SEC. Well, LSU lost to USC, and they lost to a bunch of other teams too.
Yeah.
You got Georgia. Georgia's probably played, in my opinion, the most difficult schedule. But who have they lost to, Georgia? I mean, they lost to Bama, and who was the other team?
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, right? It's all circular.
Ole Miss is
SEC teams.
Ole Miss is
throwing
really fucking up.
I keep forgetting about that Ole Miss game.
Dude, they're fucking up a lot of pretty much everything that the SEC has. Kentucky or Ole Miss or both have ruined.
And lastly, you got Tennessee, who's lost to an Arkansas team. A lot of these teams have lost to teams that we would all probably put down in the bottom tier of the SEC, right?
Yeah.
And my point is, once you get out of those top 2 to 3 teams, all of these resumes will be flawed. And they are going to be very hard to differentiate, especially this season with the way the SEC is played out. I don't know how you can tell me what team's the best between those SEC teams. Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. I mean, who the hell has Texas beat? I mean, this A&M game couldn't be bigger. And I think if Texas loses A&M team, they could be that 5th team on the outside looking in.
I don't think you can let UT in the playoff if they lose to A&M. A&M has to be in the playoff, in my opinion.
And when you have all this kind of, I don't want to say undeservedness, right? Because, I mean, all these teams are in the top 12. They deserve it. But a lot of flaws, right? It just opens the door for bias to become way more involved. There's no easy way to rank these teams that is equally fair to all of them. There's no way to say on the field versus strength of schedule versus best win, worst loss. It's very, very difficult once you get to 12 teams, especially in a season like this. And I don't think it'll ever be a season where it's super easy. And that's why here at Rent Money, personally, running back Jones wants to put an end and a stamp against narrative bias. It's hard enough to do this when we're playing these 12 games, 13 games on the field during the season. And you know what happens on the season and on the field should be what rewards these teams. And that's what we should look at. Sure, you can look at who the best team might be on paper. You know what? SEC is probably going to get 4 teams in anyways, right, guys? We're probably going to get 4 SEC teams. What's the big deal? I just can't stand for us to play all these fucking games and then it'd be like, all right, 9 through 12, let's put in the teams with the best recruits.
Yeah.
We saw today that a Georgia player committed from Georgia State to Georgia, and within a day, 24 or was it on 3 rankings, pushed him up 500 spots.
6. It was 600 spots.
600 spots in the rankings. So yeah, Georgia is going to have the best fucking recruits every year, and the SEC is going to have the best recruits when you jerk them off from the fucking get-go.
Yeah. They're getting
outrageous.
OTPHJs like nobody's business.
It's outrageous. 2 things can be true at the same time, right, Old Chisholm? The SEC can be the best conference in college football. I think we all agree on that.
I think on paper.
We can also say that there is certainly SEC bias, and it's outrageous.
Yes. I think for anyone to look at the SEC and say that this schedule or, this setup is so much more difficult than a Big Ten, maybe Big Ten West, I'll look at and be like, all right, fine. I'll give you that. But the Big Ten as a whole, I think there is not one, and I repeat, there is not a single Mississippi State in all of the Big Ten. Maybe Purdue, right? Maybe Purdue. But even still,
outside of,
like, this is an off year for them. There is, there's 5 or 6 Kentuckys we have, right? They'll take out a top team at any given point. We have 6 Ole Misses, right? Like, we don't have
No, we do not. No, we don't.
What do you mean? No,
we got 4.
4. We got 4 Ole Misses. Who's the next 2?
I'll stay with D-Man there. Maybe we got 4
every year.
But at the same time, I mean, look at Missouri. I think Missouri's the prime example of this, guys, right? Who here thinks Missouri's a good football team?
No,
I sure as hell don't.
They suck.
They suck, and they haven't shown me a single thing to make me believe in them as a team. Why are they ranked? I think we all know the reason why they're still ranked. To prop up those top-ranked LSU teams.
Yeah.
It's a shit show. And, it is more fun. It's fun to talk about. But I think it's just I need to bring myself back to reality that I'm arguing over who the 12th best team is.
Yeah, who gives a shit? Like at the end of the day, well, yeah, it's probably going to be between Oregon, Ohio State, and Bama, Georgia.
Yeah, I don't give a shit who the 12th best team is. I give a shit once certain people up in their ivory towers start to tell me who the best college football team is because they think so and not because of what the fuck happened on the field. That's where I start to get pissed off because I sit there on my couch every Saturday watching college football, and it's like, why?
We would be in a different world, not really, but like a little bit of a different world if TCU didn't lose by fucking 75.
That is the worst strawman argument of all time. Because what did TCU do? They won in the semifinals. They won to get there. They were the second best team that year.
Absolutely demolished.
And I think Georgia was that good.
Georgia was
in a lot of ways.
Outside
of Ohio State, who they played and barely beat, crazy enough, CJ Stroud. But what does TCU what did TCU do wrong? Oh, they shouldn't have beat Michigan.
Let me pose this question then. Okay. You guys aren't going to like it, but let's say Iowa State.
Try me.
Somehow Iowa State gets into the Big 12 championship, wins it. Let's say they get into the playoff, okay?
They should be if they win the Big 12.
There's a way that they wouldn't, which would be wild. But
there isn't any way they wouldn't.
No, there is.
Oh, getting the 4 seed. Got it. Would they be in the playoffs?
No, if Army wins out, if Army beats Notre Dame, I know it's a far-fetched idea, but if Army wins out, then Boise State wins out. I don't think Iowa State would get in as a Big 12 champion.
I think they would. 100% out of 100 times. Who's saying this shit? Penis Williams?
Yeah, dude. You're telling me that 0 Big 12 teams would be in the entire playoff. That's what you're telling me.
Under that scenario, that would happen. Yes.
There's no way.
All right. Well, that was fun. I like that. We should have leaned into that more, Cash. That could have been a good bit there. Continue,
I love the notion, though. Yeah, keep going.
Let me finish this real quick. So, Iowa State gets in, and this almost, in a weird way, goes back to Iowa talking about winning the Big Ten West. What's our end goal here? To go just get fucking embarrassed on the national stage? Do you want to play in that game? Do you want to face Georgia or whoever it might be and just get absolutely embarrassed on the national stage and everyone's laughing at you like, yeah, this is why we don't want the Big 12 in the playoff?
Yes, you want that.
Kentucky's won one game in the Big SEC all year, and you know who they beat? They beat Ole Miss. That could be any game. Go ahead, Chisholm.
As a Notre Dame fan, I can tell you, you just have to take it. The embarrassment, the suck, everyone hating you, everyone not liking you. Like the fact that you're at that stage, you're one of 12 teams now that is at the top stage in all of college football. If you think that's not getting you
hosting a game,
looks, right?
Or getting a bye.
Additional looks at recruiting, like that is what the future of college football is now. Is NIL, yeah,
more money.
It has a place, right?
A lot more money,
but there's more games, so there's more money being made for universities, for the networks, the corporations throwing advertising spend at them, right? But at the same time, for these kids, more opportunities on a game-by-game basis to do something worthy of generating more money. And they're going to want to go to the schools that are at that stage. And so that's it sucks watching Notre Dame get absolutely butt fucked every time they would go to that stage. Sucks. Like, you're embarrassed. You want to crawl in a hole and die, but you have to take it because now we have
Here we go. D-Man, listen to this. And I agree 100% with what Ultrism said. You always want to be on the stage. You always want to give yourself a chance. It's good for all those reasons that he listed. And that stage was a little different. It was the top 4 teams, the top 2 teams out of the SEC, which typically were absolute wagons and still probably will be in the future. Your Georgia, your Alabamas. But I think this year specifically, and maybe going forward with the way the NIL is now creating parity amongst some of these teams with who they're getting and who is on the playing field for them. I think there is more parity in the SEC this season. And I think that instead of playing, the top 4, the top 2 teams, I think a lot of these teams are kind of in that 5 to 9 range, right? Unlike they have been in previous seasons. And I think there is opportunity to beat these teams. I mean, we've seen, like I said, almost every single one of them Texas not included, lose to lower level SEC teams that we would say are mediocre.
That's tough when that's the best thing you can say as a program is, well, we didn't lose to the middle of the pack, so let us in.
I mean, just how many times will it take for a Big 12 team to go into that first round, lose, for them to just their arguments flawed? Because Oklahoma was the only Big 12 team to make it into the college football playoff in its existence.
That's not even true. TCU was just there in the championship.
Sorry. Other than TCU, my bad. Before that, only Oklahoma, and Oklahoma never made the national championship. They always lost in that first round. Notre Dame's kind of in a similar boat, even though they're not in the Big 12. They lost to Clemson, 30-3. They lost to Bama, 31-10. Like, how many times can these losses happen until we're just like done fighting the argument?
Hey, Marcus, I'm not arguing. Guess how many teams the Big 12 is going to get in this year? 1. Guess how many the SEC is going to get in? 4. There's like the solution to your argument. Guess what? We're only going to put one of these teams in anyways. We're going to get 4 of the other. Do we just want to exclude a whole region of college football and say your games don't matter? Everybody just go and focus on what's happening in the Southeastern Conference. That's all you should care about anymore. Fuck college football as a national entity. That's why I have a problem with it.
You have 6 conferences fighting over one spot. That's what I'm saying. This isn't relevant to college football. It's relevant to 3 conferences.
It's more than that. It should be relevant to everybody that's ever laced them up and went out there and played, or went to a Friday night football game. So they just love the sport. We're taking away the fabric of college football here with all this hand wringing and saying all this bullshit. Bring back the old conferences. I think we all agree on that. I mean, I think that would create, taking away a lot of these issues.
I love BCS so much because it's like when you make it where every game doesn't matter except for these 3 games, this is the result. BCS, every game mattered. Nobody's watching a Boise State, Ohio, or Boise State, Oklahoma Statue of Liberty, fake for the touchdown, and the guy proposes to his cheerleader girlfriend right after that. Unless it's in like the Sugar Bowl, which is also the second round of the playoff. And you're just like, oh,
you know what else? And we can move on from this conversation because we're probably not saying anything that anyone else is. But I just found this interesting. If you look at the college football playoffs and they're however many years, decade plus, not a single team, not a single fucking one made the Final Four with more than 1 loss, right? And so at the end of the day, you had to be perfect or damn near perfect, and it was pretty easy to separate the contenders from the pretenders, at least on the field, and who is most deserving, right?
Yeah.
And this is a special season and one that it's fun when there's upsets, but now upsets just create more fucking issues for us because look at this. We're left with a bunch of 2-loss teams all arguing over this shit. And when has that been the standard? When has being 2-loss team been a standard that we've held college football to? It's just
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. But before we move off of this fully, D-Man, do you have any closing thoughts before we start looking into our next?
I want to be clear here. I want to be fucking completely clear. I am not defending the SEC, and I fucking hate the SEC with all my heart. Okay? I know it sounds like I'm like, oh yeah, like the Big 12 sucks. Don't even let a single one of them in. My point is once they get in, it just pains me to watch these beatdowns year after year. I guess, like you said, Jack, TCU beat Michigan. God bless them. Then they lost by fucking 500 to Georgia. So I just don't want to relive this again where the SEC is just laughing in our faces. Think about all those years that Iowa just goes into a bowl game against an SEC team, gets the absolute shit kicked out of them. Tennessee.
Hey, we beat Kentucky. We beat South Carolina.
We beat Kentucky and South Carolina.
Well, guess what? Those are the teams that are the middle of the pack for SEC. And who are we? We're middle of the pack.
I know, but we also lost by like 55, like 4 fucking times. Like, that's embarrassing. That just shows that there is a complete difference in terms of talent. And I hate it. And I think it's just like a product of money
Well,
and the sport. But I mean,
I was gonna say we could talk about Iowa's inability to observe talent at multiple positions. I feel like we've had our pick of the litter in the state of Iowa for a while. Max Dugan, Council Bluffs kid, instead of playing anywhere in the state, he went to TCU. Like,
last thought.
Yeah.
Jack, you started this by asking if Indiana, what they need to do to be a part of it and if they're deserving. I think as long as they don't lose to Ohio State by 30, they're in. Is that crazy?
No,
I don't think it's crazy.
I think that as long as they keep it manageable, they're in.
What has Penn State done? I think we just need to reassess, all of us, and this is probably what's been causing me a lot of consternation all week. Just reassess what my standard is for a playoff football team. And I think that's going to be a big weight off my shoulders. These teams aren't going to be perfect. They are not. But we also don't need 5 of the fucking 7 at-large bids to be from one conference either. No. Because it's just boring. I don't care. I already saw this happen. If you're the 5th best team in your conference, you don't get in. Better luck
just
next
like
year.
the
Be
government,
better in your conference. Whatever.
No taxation without representation. That's what I say.
Yeah,
as a college football fan, as an American, as a guy that remembers what we used to do over a 4% ink tax. We used to start revolutionary wars over this shit. We used to overthrow tyrannical governments. And now what do? We just say, "Oh, thank you, Mr. SEC, sir. May I have another?" Fuck you.
No taxation without representation. I love it, Chisholm. As a college football fan, why should I be given my full, grew up a Kansas State fan. There's a bunch of fans in the Pac-12. Why should I be giving you my full attention, my full dollars, everything that I have as a fan throughout the whole season, if we can't get a little representation when it comes down to the final fucking thing? Come on.
I was just about to say.
We're giving it all over here as fans. You want us to be invested in the entire thing? Come on. No taxation without representation, Chisholm.
Can you even imagine the scenario that we're in right now if the Pac-12 wasn't completely dismembered? Like if there was 5 Power 5 teams still or conferences?
It'd be better. We'd get 6 teams locked in. You get the Power 6, the group of 6 in there, and then you get 6 at large. Just figure it out.
Just make something happen.
All right, real quick, before we move on to picks for the week, I just want to talk about who we're going to see in these conference championship games. So I don't know if you guys have comments on this, but just found this interesting. Most likely, we're going to see Miami versus SMU. Clemson's basically fucked out of that one unless Miami loses one game. SMU is a tiebreak, so they can basically lose both games. Doesn't really matter. So basically, more or less, Clemson gets in if Miami loses one of the 2 games. They have Wake Forest and Cal McCord and Syracuse. Otherwise, you're going to see a Miami SMU final for the ACC.
Cal McCord could do the funniest thing ever.
The Big Ten, yeah, he sure could. Big Ten, Oregon has already clinched. They're going to be the Big Ten championship. OSU versus Indy pretty much decides who's going to go, barring something miraculous happening, like some Ohio State wins, then loses to Michigan, and in which case Penn State could possibly sneak in. But more or less, you're going to see Oregon or the winner of OSU Indy in that championship game. Big 12, this is the super chaos region. Everybody said at the beginning of the season the Big 12 is going to have a lot of parity. It's going to be fun to watch. Well, 9 teams still mathematically have a scenario to get in to the finals. And the funniest of all would be a Texas Tech versus TCU championship game, which is still statistically feasible. More or less, 3 teams control their own destiny right now. You got BYU, Colorado, and Arizona State. Rado and Arizona State do play each other. So, the winner of that game is going to have a driver's seat. Otherwise, Iowa State has the most realistic chance of getting in out of those 3. Needs some help along the way. SEC has 6 teams alive: Texas, Georgia, A&M, Tennessee, Bama, Ole Miss. A&M and Texas both control their own destiny. They play each other in the final game of the year. Both teams can go 2-0 and secure their spot in the SEC championship. Otherwise, Bama is most likely to get in based off this weird internal strength of schedule ranking that is likely to play out. So you'll likely see, a Texas A&M or Texas versus Bama team, barring some weird stuff like Missouri has to lose out, which isn't unprecedented, but they played Mississippi State. So look for one of those Texas teams versus Bama in the championship. Just thought I'd give some people a preview of those games because I think we're all in agreement. If you make it to the championship, it's going to be hard to keep you out. The committee does not want to punish teams for making the championship of their conference. All right, well, let's get to Pick'em. If you're just tuning in live, coming back from commercial break, we got D-Man here replacing Texas Pete for the week. Texas Pete out there catching a little waves on the sun deck, getting some sun with Mrs. Pete. D-Man, how do you
beach house?
I hope he's doing terrible on that. I hope he's seasick.
D-Man, why would you say that about Texas Pete? You coming for a seat?
No. You know what? I like Texas Pete. I do. All right. I guess I like him as an actual person, just not when he's on this pod. We'll talk about the Cubs in a separate group chat. I love talking Cubs baseball with him. A very loyal fan. The second he steps onto this pod, he is like my number one enemy. I hate this guy. And I can go down a couple data points that really just get me going. It started when he was talking about Michigan versus Washington. And he's on this pod. He's like, yeah, this is just stupid of me, but I'm going to take Michigan. I see that number next to them. It's a complete rat line. I shouldn't be taking Michigan. It's such a dumb bet. I'm going to lose money on this, but I'm still going to throw it. And I lost a lot of respect for him in that moment. I was like, why are you going to throw it if you know you're going to lose money? Obviously, Michigan lost. They suck. And it's just like, okay, moving on to another. Texas Tech versus Arizona late at night. He's like, yeah, I'm not even going to watch this game. I'm just going to fall asleep. The touchdown pass is being thrown. That over is going to hit. I think it was 3-0 at halftime. I'm like, is this guy an idiot? Like, does he even know college football? He puts this much time in, and this is what we're coming up with. And finally, last weekend, you, Capsh, and him are betting on Texas against Arkansas. And he makes it the dude wipes pick of the week. I immediately was like, oh, my God, this is such a fucking
felt like a good get-right spot. I don't know.
No.
They only missed the cover by 4 points. I don't know why you're –
no, it's just everything that he says on the pod is just a spew of bullshit. I don't think he knows anything about college football, like straight up. And that's just how I feel about him when it comes to college football.
Friendly fire, code blue. Are you saying that he's
all right? Hey, Texas Pete, you hear that? Gotta come back here to defend your honor.
Where does TP fall in the penis head rankings? I know you have your own personal listing of penis heads. And I guess, do you want to give context as to what a penis head is or does?
Texas Pete's more of a shaft guy with that neck, if you know what I'm saying.
Usually you have to have a bald head to be a penis head unless you're a very special person. So I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret that I have. I haven't told anyone this before.
You're bald.
Nah, I still got the hair.
Yeah.
Anytime I receive a political text message during election season, I respond to it saying, "Oh, hello again, Mr. Penis Head."
Do you get a kick out of that, D-Man? Does that make you feel good inside? They're just out here, trying to spread the good word of whoever their candidate is, and you just got to knock him down a peg, kind of like you knocked Texas Pete down a peg when he's not even in the building.
Yeah, it's tough that he's not even here to defend himself, but
on his sick day.
We'll talk to him a little bit later.
Oh, man. Well, hey, you're in his seat today, so we're going to look to you for a few picks, if not the most picks, based off our production meeting. Hey, guys, if it feels like we're out of sorts today, I want to apologize. Texas Pete does crack that whip during the production meetings early in the week. He is that guy. He's doing a lot behind the scenes to keep us organized. Unpopular opinion, or maybe unbeknownst, however that fucking word goes, to Mr. D-Man. Texas Pete's doing a lot around here. We appreciate him. We don't think you're speaking bullshit, Texas Pete. If we did, we'd call you D-Man. All right, but you're 30 and what is he, like 35 and 38 on the year? That's the seat you're sitting in, Toppin. Then we got Old Chisholm. I think he's the leader in the clubhouse. I don't think I know. He's 65, 60, and 2. The muscles holding on. And then we got myself.
70. That's last week. Some 70,
75.
64.
He's 75 and 64. 70,
No, 70, 64, and 2.
See, this is the stuff that Texas Pete would have cleaned up already for me right here.
Yeah.
70, 64, and 2. Texas Pete 35, 38, and 1. Didn't get that one wrong. And then myself, running back Jones, 39 and 40. I'm still looking. I'm yearning. I'm dying for my first push of the season. Next time I get a push, I'm going to just run around the street yelling, woo-hoo. All right. Indiana at Ohio State. Holy shit. D-Man, take the mic, dude. Take it away from me, please. Jump in.
Yeah, D-Man, what's up with that mind of yours?
This is going to be tough if my girlfriend, Emily, listens to this one, but I hate
Yeah, she might be D-Mad.
Hopefully,
D-Mad is mad.
I sent her the live link, so if she's listening, I apologize. But I do not like the Kelly School of Business. It is nothing like Tippy. I will say that just straight up. Terrible business school.
Tippy, hey, the Kelly School of Business, Marcus, is kind of like the SEC. Yeah, just because you got the best recruits doesn't mean you're the best school.
Amen. Amen to that. So
no grit there.
Yeah, they didn't earn it.
Unfortunately, I have no idea what's going to happen in this. It's 13.5, which is way more than what I think it should be. I really want to take Indiana plus like 14, maybe by a half a point. And if I'm not mistaken, this opened up at 10, right? And I think it moved.
I believe so. Yeah.
That's scary to me. I'm not really sure what to think, but I will have to take the Hoosiers here. I want to see them go fight at the Horseshoe. I do not think they will win this game. I think they'll lose by a touchdown. They'll keep it close. Sig will keep it close. They got some really good receivers. Their playmakers on the outside can really
Their
make it happen.
playmakers are surprisingly nasty.
Dude,
you watch them
against Nebraska, that game,
Nebraska game changed my whole perspective on everything.
I was like, oh my God. Like they're going and attacking. They get the ball.
Ball madness.
Yeah.
On both sidelines, getting their feet down. Yeah, they're nasty on the outside. They're like Mike Williams reincarnated out there.
It's fun to watch.
I'll tell you what, if Indiana goes and gets an early lead, they could win it. If Indiana's leading at halftime, Indiana's going to win the game.
You think Will Howard can't bring him back?
Howard just is not that good. He's going to be the reason why they don't win a national championship.
I think Will Howard has played as well, if not better, than almost every quarterback in this country thus far through the year. I would go on paper saying that.
He's going to make the mistake when things matter most.
I can see that.
Doesn't have the stones. Kansas State didn't want him.
Well, yeah. Chisholm's been...
They had those beautiful locks in Avery Johnson that they wanted to unveil. No penis head there.
There's been a bit of an issue with Avery Johnson, if you want to talk the Cats, and their recent slide losing to Houston and Arizona State. But I think it's the same thing with this Ohio State team. This Ohio State team isn't always challenged to be their best, right? They can kind of sleepwalk through a lot of the competition, as most teams of their caliber and their talent are able to. And I think at times that can hold these teams back when they have these kind of matchups. I think Ohio State's at their best when they fully embrace Will Howard as a downhill runner. And really tuck that ball. And I think Kansas State's the same way, and that's why I was tying them together. They have not ran Avery Johnson enough this year. He's averaging less than 10 carries a game. Will Howard should be the rest of the way. Hey, guess what? It's like nut crunch time here for Ohio State.
Give him 12 to 15 carries a game.
12 to 15 carries. What are we protecting him for? He's a fifth-year senior. Love Will Howard. But, dude, you're going to have to put your head down.
He's not playing in the NFL. Yeah.
He's not going to be really an NFL guy. Maybe he'll get a look, practice squad, or, maybe wind up as a backup. But he's not playing for first-round status. Tuck that ball, big man, and run. With that said, I do think that what a lot of Topping is saying is correct. I do see this game at 14 at a couple books, which is nice. So Topping will give you that as well, D-Man. And I'm going to go
I'll squad right here if the fellas are down to ride.
Taking that.
Who's your daddy?
But yeah.
Well, I'll put my money. I'll put my money down on him.
Daddy.
Who's your daddy? Speaking of which, did you guys see that Rick Pitino snafu? No,
What,
But
did he get arrested again?
we're also gonna.
no. He was coaching against his son, and he beat his son. And the St. John fans, oh God, what's his son name? He coached at Minnesota. Richard. He beat
Dick.
Richard's team. Yeah, Dick Pitino. And the St. John's fans were chanting, "Who's your daddy?" to him, to Rick, and to Dick. And Rick was like, hey, none of that now. But it's really funny because it had to be one of the only times the chant of "Who's your daddy?" was legitimately, "Who's your daddy?"
Who's your daddy? Immediately think of Pedro Martinez when I think about that.
That's good stuff. That's good family fun. Yeah.
There's no way. Am I the only one that hasn't had internet issues this entire time?
No, you're the man right now, D man. This is
I haven't.
Hey, in the meantime, while we're gonna take Indiana plus 14, I'm gonna go back to the well. This one earlier in the season, we're gonna go back to it. Will Howard over 14.5 rushing yards. Put it on the card.
Ooh.
Ladder it.
We cannot do the ladder again. The sacks are just too tough in college football. The sacks are negative yards, and it's just tough to ladder up with the sacks. It makes you a little nervous. I will ladder to 25.
Can I give you a Friday night lights?
Yeah, please do.
Can I touch? I would love to touch on some Friday night lights. Folks, these are two of the worst teams in the Big Ten, and they're squaring off. And it has gotten to be so bad at this point for the Purdue Boilermakers that head coach Ryan Walters, a defensive coordinator by trade, is actually helping out and calling plays on offense at times. But outside of that, it doesn't really matter who's calling the plays. The Boilermakers have had the same result. They are ranked 129th out of 134 in points per game this season at 17.2. And they've scored 10 points or fewer in 6 of 9 games against FBS teams. Sound familiar, Hawkeye fans? No, this is not a Groundhog's Day scenario. This is a different team in the Big Ten. Their offense is 98th in EPA per rush and 121st in EPA and dropback. And it's not like Michigan State is going to be the team to pull this all together and hit the over on their own. The total for this one's at 47.5. We're going to go ahead and just hammer the under on this one because the Spartans are even worse on offense than Purdue, according to SP Plus, and they are only scoring slightly more points per game at 19.4. These are two teams averaging less than 20 points per game, and we got a total of 47.5. Let's have some fun. Book it.
Love it. All right, D-Man, what do you have? You're on mute, big guy.
Son of a bitch. I promise.
No internet issues, but user error creeps up. It's all good, my friend. Where are you at?
Promised myself I wasn't going to do that, but I'm sorry to burn Texas Pete again, but I know that he has that future on Colorado to win the Big 12, I want to say, or maybe to make the playoff. But I'm going to ride with Kansas money line at Arrowhead Stadium. It's +3 right now for Kansas. I think that's a lot. It's definitely a lot closer than what it would have been 2-3 weeks ago. Everyone thought that Kansas was left for dead, but somehow Leipold really just brought those troops together, starting with the Kansas State game. He really has gotten that team to buy back in, be like, hey, we got some big names on our schedule the rest of the way. Let's go out and fight. Jalen Daniels, who I understand is actually related to Jaden Daniels, correct?
Maybe.
No, I actually know that. Someone told me that within the past week, and I was like, geez, I just thought they had similar names. I didn't realize they actually were like brothers. That's fucking wild. He's incredible. He can run, he can pass, he can really make some magic happen for Kansas. And I think at Arrowhead with a 2:30 kick Central Time, I think they'll be able to keep Colorado at bay. And I'm still not – Colorado's good, but I'm not completely sold on them if they're on the ropes against like a good offense, that their defense will be able to step up and stop them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, shit. Did you guys watch the Utah Colorado game at all?
I missed that.
I mean, Travis Hunter got absolutely burned.
Dude, he's not good.
He is good.
He's really good on offense. Honestly, I was looking at his stats in terms of like targets. He's not targeted that often, which means he has to be good, right? But then the amount of receptions versus those targets, I want to say it was. I'll look it up here and get back to you.
He's just a deep ball guy. Shedeur is, in my opinion, I've gained more respect for Shedeur Sanders this year than anyone on that Colorado team. He is a stud. He holds the ball too long, kind of like Caleb Williams did at USC. But like, if he can develop just the getting it out faster, he'll be a stud at the NFL level. I can't wait. I do think that the Travis Hunter scenario, though, like we all watched like Charles Woodson do this in '98. Or maybe, not we all. We were born the year before, the year of, but like Ashton Jeanty, Caleb Johnson, these names still deserve to be in that conversation in my mind. Like, I know that Caleb Johnson won't be because it's a quarterback award, except for this year where it's between Jeanty and I guess Cam Ward and some of those guys' names are still in it. We could potentially have running back Jones do an update if we have the time, but yeah, what a weird scenario. I will say, I want to go on record and say this: if Kotelnicki stayed at Kansas, they would win the Big 12 this year, and they would be a playoff team. On paper, on record, I want that to be said.
One quick
I love this play. I love this play.
Jack, didn't you say that you've been betting against Colorado every week? Last week?
No, last year we were all over it. Marcus, Jalen and Jaden Daniels are not related. I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. I was going deep into the Google recesses. Well,
that's just a lie. They actually are.
They are not. They are not related. Your friend of the water cooler is just yanking your leg, and Texas Pete's laughing right now, looking at you, saying, "Oh, is it so easy, huh?"
Well, fuck that then.
TP loves water cooler conversations more than anyone I know.
Oh, Tristan, as a guy that has talked Jaden and Jalen for years on this program, never once have we talked about them being related. I was like, no. Red flags, big time alarms.
I just looked it up.
Riddle me this.
Google says it right here that they are related. They are brothers.
Google says no, they are not related.
It's right on my screen.
One was born in Lawndale, Kansas.
What does Bing say?
You ever hear about adoption?
Yahoo.
One was born and raised in California. The other one was born and raised in Kansas. Maybe they're just long lost brothers. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
It could be an Arby dad.
It's a feeling that I have in my heart.
I'm looking at pictures of these guys. They don't even look the same.
Nah, there's no relation other than the last name and similar first names.
Completely different. Have you ever looked at a picture of the two of them?
Oh, they look very different.
They look pretty similar to me.
Marcus, when you said that they're brothers, did you mean that in like the term of endearment that they're both black men?
Like,
and we should celebrate that?
Or remember the Titans kind of way? Or
can't you see Carla? He's my brother. You see the resemblance?
Guys, it's me versus them. Everyone out there listening, just know they are brothers.
Or don't know.
Don't trust these posers that don't know anything about football.
What was my record again? 70, 64, and 2.
Hey, well, I got a pick for y'all. I'm taking Georgia at home at UMass, or at home against UMass. That's a 2
Minutemen
UMass team. Yeah, 42.5 point favorites. I think that Georgia said, I saw what God did for you. I want to see what God does for me. And they mean that by saying Alabama whooping Mercer's ass. They move up 3 spots in the college football playoff. It's that time of the year, fellas. Take the big, heavy favorites, especially when they're an SEC team playing a 2-8 UMass team, because guess what? They got something to prove. They win by 60. I think that looks pretty good on the committee's, resume, however they look at it. D-Man, would you disagree? I see a look of perplexion maybe on your face.
No, there's no disagreement. Emily actually saw that game about an hour ago go across like the bottom of the screen. She's like, there's no way that they're playing UMass this week. Is that actually right? That might be like, is that college basketball? And I was like, no. And she's like, oh my God, my dad was just telling me about how these SEC teams are playing all these little sisters of the poor.
Oh, because
and I'm like, yep,
They
that's
are.
what they're doing. Yeah, Alabama's playing Mercer. I mean,
Last week, yeah.
shit. Yeah, I know. And who did Kentucky play? They played like a team.
They did play Little Sisters of the Poor.
They played Shepherd of the Valley.
Dude, when are we going to line up against Chattanooga? That's what I'm asking. They are such a fucking wagon down there in Chattanooga.
I like the Citadel personally.
Yeah, dude, I like the Citadel.
They're some sickos. I got 2 more plays.
Go
I don't
ahead.
really have a lot going on here. I'm more of a vibes guy this week. I don't know if you guys have ever tried any of these.
You're
I'll call it out.
You're vibing, Chisholm. I was getting frustrated earlier talking CFP. Go.
Nah, man. We're vibing. It's a can with 2 N's, the High Boys. It's a little lemon lavender flavor. You got 5 milligrams of THC, 10 milligrams of CBD, and a hemp-derived social tonic that's made to be simple with all natural ingredients. Comes in 12 fluid ounce cans. That's 355 milliliters from my folks, metric system users at home.
And that's pretty neat.
Is that legal in Texas?
They delivered it to my door, so I'm going to hope it is. 2 more plays for you, folks. As you guys know, I like to show love to all conferences, or at least as many in the G6 as I can. And as much as I do want to throw on the under in this UNLV San Jose State game that is also being played on Friday, my sights are set to Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time when the FIU Panthers go in and take on the Kennesaw State, I believe, Golden Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. It is their first year in FBS, so forgive me, folks, if I don't have it right off the top, but this is a simple one. Kennesaw State doesn't have the depth on their roster to withstand the last couple of weeks that they've had in the month. Nearly 20 players have already entered the transfer portal after Coach Brian Bohannon's abrupt and debated firing has occurred. Because of that, the Owls have survived the loss of 3 starting offensive linemen, 3 of their top 4 receivers for a week against Sam Houston State. And they do not expect that to occur any further. So we're just being logical here. Kennesaw State is beat to fuck. They're just going through the growing pains of joining the big boys club. FIU is coming into this one as 8.5-point road favorites. I'm going to just take that and run with it. This is a system and a model that has worked out pretty well for me over the course of this year. Don't overthink it. Like I said, be logical, be simple. I do have one more. If you want me to just run through it very quick, I can. But other than that, curious where you guys are at or where you're looking on this.
D-Man.
I'll give my thoughts. Caps, no idea what you just said. I'm sorry. But Texas Tech, -3.5 against Oklahoma State. Maybe Texas Tech doesn't have that much to play for, but Oklahoma State definitely has 0 to play for at this point. I think Gundy has kind of lost that team. The college football landscape has essentially passed him by. He's complaining to the media, saying, yeah, we don't have enough money to pay these players. Anytime a coach is making these stupid excuses to the media, love Gundy. I just think that his time is up, and it's time for him to kind of step aside. Texas Tech, -3.5. It is in Stillwater, which is a little bit scary. But Taj Brooks is going to be able to control the ground, be able to run all over them, especially against a defense that doesn't really have much to play for at this point. So, and Texas Tech can really run up the scores. So,
is that Baron Morton they have as their quarterback?
Yep, that's right.
How's he played?
Baron Morton is an absolute piece of shit, actually. He's really not that good.
Him and Bailey Jennings.
Yeah. Bailey Jennings, he's okay. Bailey Jennings is okay. But Taj
He has a good slider.
No, he's really working on that fastball right now. He needs to get that.
Up and in. Yeah.
But, Taj Brooks, going to run all over them. I'll skip to this one because I know you guys are on the opposite side of it. Army plus 14.5, Yankee Stadium. The ghost of Yankee Stadium are going to come back and haunt Capsh. Absolutely haunt him. And at least cover. I cannot believe that line, to be honest. An undefeated Army team that has put up 35 points per game, and they have 8 passing touchdowns on the season versus 35 rushing touchdowns on the season. This Army team is going to really grind Notre Dame. I think they're going to be able to slow the game down, at least be able to cover. That's really what I got there.
I'll let Chisholm take the other side. You guys are getting to it. I like Notre Dame as well. Chisholm's probably got some more muscle, but this Notre Dame team's been rolling. And as much as I like Army, and I do think Army is a significantly better team than we saw at Navy in a game where Navy turned the ball over nonstop, I do think that Notre Dame is going to go out there and cover for this game.
Yeah, the size factor is just what makes the biggest difference in these games. You can't have as big of linemen at Army or at West Point or at the Naval Academy as you can have anywhere else. Like you can't be a midshipman, you can't be a cadet and be 6'7", 320 pounds, right? Like it won't work that way. So I think the trenches, Notre Dame will dominate. That will be a factor for sure. Riley Mills has been a fucking unit to watch this year. And I think he's going to be a huge disruptor in this game in particular, stuffing things internally. And I would expect Notre Dame to just try to get Riley Leonard running early and often in this one. So I'll just blindly kind of do what I've been doing for the past few weeks. It's worked out pretty damn well. Just riding on Notre Dame. But the game that I actually won on my card.
Real quick, Adam. Ohio State use Will Howard how Notre Dame's using Riley Leonard. But with
Notre Dame,
bigger, better arm.
Notre Dame said, all right, fine, after that NIU game. And honestly, it was more so after like the Miami, Ohio game where they only put up like 28 points. That was when they said, all right, fine. We're going to stop forcing him to throw the ball as much, and we're just going to pound the fuck out of the rock, especially in the red zone, and it's worked out extremely well. Kind of like how the Steelers were using Fields, right? How the Bears should have used Fields. Kind of like how Iowa used Nate Stanley at certain times when it was like 3rd and 2. We were just going to QB sneak every time and gain like 5 yards.
So good.
Kind of just missed those days, But Marcus, you ever miss Nate Stanley?
Yeah, I mean, at least he had an arm. He could just absolutely sling the rock. We'd get all pissed off about him overthrowing his receiver by 10 yards, but it wasn't a noodle arm by any means. And
no.
More than Nate Stanley, I think his 2 tight ends, Hawkinson and Fant, we did not properly utilize those 2 at all. But it was so fun having them on one team.
Couldn't agree more. My last play for the weekend, this is a zig while they zag on my zig play. Folks, that's right. We're taking the Duke Blue Devils money line. Virginia Tech is the only team in my mind that has yet to beat a team whose quarterback is still considered a starting quarterback. I will say no one has really bought in more on Kyron Drones and his resurgence than myself, yours truly.
Yeah,
but their defense is so bad. And against a stout defensive unit like the Duke Blue Devils still have from the Elko era, Drones is going to need a lot more from his defense in order to keep that game close. And I think Duke has a higher floor than they're given credit for. Malik Murphy's not that bad of a quarterback like this. He was getting snaps at UT last year, 2 years ago when injuries occurred. And I think that just creates a lot of value. You're getting Duke plus 120, all the way upwards now of plus 135 at Caesar Sportsbook at home against a pretty much equal Virginia Tech team. I think that it's worth hammering.
Not playing hammering. I like it. Hey,
Yeah.
well, I'm out of legit picks for the week. I don't know about D-Man. BYU versus Arizona State, I do just want to call out that game existing like 2:30 on a Saturday Central
That's
Time.
the game. That's the game that matters.
I'm most excited about, I think.
I would
Colorado.
probably take Arizona State there.
And
Scatterbo is a dog.
Arizona State is 3.5-point favorites, which tells you how much Vegas maybe doesn't really necessarily believe in them. I did want to call out as well the Auburn line, 2.5-point underdogs against Texas A&M at home. Vegas loves Auburn at home. These lines have been stinky and close all year.
Throw the Aggies. Throw the Aggies on my card.
You want them because it's a trap game. It's a classic trap game on the road at Auburn.
This is exactly like the Oklahoma game. Exactly like the Oklahoma game, except A&M is so much better.
What about all those other stinky games we played?
I've been on the right side of them every single time. You and Faltz are the ones that are always like, oh, well, it's stinky rat cheese. And then I
walk in your trap, take over your trap.
I actually do.
Mike Elko was at his press conference, and they asked him like, "Hey, are you guys like focused for this game? You know, you got a big one against Texas coming up," and he's like, "No, our focus is squarely on Texas right now. It is squarely on Texas."
And he's like, I mean Auburn.
I mean Auburn, and you're like, "Oh my god, dude, what the?"
He's definitely just focused on Texas.
Yeah, like, brother. Yeah, maybe we should take Auburn based off of Elko saying that. Holy hell.
This is a learning year for Elko. And next year's when Chisholm and I went off of Texas A&M National Championship future. It's happening.
It is happening.
That for later date.
Yes,
I got one more for you.
Let's go, D-Man.
I'd be remiss to not mention this one. I've done it every single week since week 0.
Oh my god, I love this trend so much.
It's just a nonstop thing. And the first, what week are we on? I think the first 7 it hit.
Week 13.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh Christ. They've hit the past 2. So it is Air Force, Nevada, or Nevada if you live in Iowa.
Go Wolfpack.
Nevada is favored by 3 against Air Force. Air Force has a very young team, especially on defense. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to reverse my pick with Army. I'm going to take Notre Dame because I just know. I've been through this way too many times. I bet on Navy earlier in the year. I'm not going to be Texas Pete here. I'm not going to be stubborn. I'm going to bet Notre Dame because I know that's what's going to happen. But back to Air Force, it's tough to keep up like a football regimen when you're at a service academy school. You have to eat a certain way. You have to follow certain orders. You have to be on a certain schedule. And this team is just worn out at this point. They got 3 wins on the season.
Chisholm knows.
Yeah, 3 wins on the season and 2 covers. Like, Air Force just does not have the stamina to go on the road to Nevada late at night. Think like a 9 p.m. kick my time. Give me Nevada minus 3.5. Oh, I was going to buy it 0.5 point. But you know what? If you want to get frisky, what I should have been doing all season, I've only bet against Air Force. Take those alternate lines, get that extra juice because they were thrown out there for a while.
I will say, have you been to Air Force's campus in Monument?
Caps, I played the historic Dwight Eisenhower golf course. Very exclusive, very tough to get on. So,
How'd you get on?
I know
You just
someone.
sign up?
No, I know someone that is at the Air Force Academy. And he got me on. And then I went to the Air Force Navy game and I threw just the house on Navy.
Worked out pretty well.
Same guy got you tickets to that game?
I'm not going to say that publicly because that's kind of disrespectful to take tickets from a guy and then bet against his school. But
walk in your trap, take over your trap. As
running back Jones always says. What do you see, Kirk O'Bangs? What did you see about that game? Like, what, a half of it?
Yeah, we sat in traffic for 3 hours trying to get onto the Air Force Academy. They were just not prepared for a 10 a.m. kick mountain time. So you just were sitting on the interstate like, well, I guess I'll crack a beer, you know?
Yeah.
Just
hypothetically.
I showed up and Navy was already up 14-0. It's like, well, at least
let's get back in the car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful campus though. Like? I got family that's lived in Monument like my entire life, and we always love checking that out. Never got me on the Dwight D. Eisenhower course though. That's big baller.
It's beautiful down there. You got the Garden of the Gods. You got the big mountain. Shit.
Garden of the Gods. What is that? It sounds a little sacrilegious.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
You're welcome. Garden of the Gods, beautiful rock formation. It's all red rock, clay, similar to Red Rock's amphitheater, but it's for the gods. You could drive through it, hop out at certain spots and locations. It's a Caps family tourist trap like you wouldn't believe. Right up there with Ruby Falls in none other than Chattanooga, Tennessee.
You been to Chattanooga, Adam?
One time, yeah. Keith had a mental breakdown. We stopped and checked out the largest underground waterfall in the
I went
world.
Through that too.
It's
I went
Ruby
to that
Falls.
Too. Yeah,
Ruby Falls. Yeah.
Does Ruby Falls have the like glow
in the dark worms?
Scary. It is actually really scary.
I don't know if they have the glow in the dark worms, but you are like crawling for a little while.
No, yeah, it is like if you're a large man, you shouldn't go on this tour.
And they're like, if you're like claustrophobic or whatever, like you might have a panic attack down here.
I just remember the elevator ride taking like 20 minutes to get down there. And I was like, are they doing this on purpose or like?
And then you get down there, they're like, you're under 50,000 tons of rock right now.
It's like
and you're
Blake Shelton at the Backyard Brawl concert. He's just like, there's 300 million Americans packed here at Kinnick Stadium tonight.
And if I was doing that tour, I'd just be like, think about if this structure just gives way. Think about that.
What was Keith's final verdict there, Chisholm? Was he satisfied?
He didn't go in. He's claustrophobic.
He just wanted you guys all to get out there and
he wanted to get rid of us. There's this thing that my dad always does. Chisholm Senior. Trips when he's just had enough. Very, very similar to D-Man. My dad has a very short fuse. It doesn't take much to set him off. When we were kids, it was just as simple as leaving a closet door open, right? He would fly off the handle. On this particular occasion, we had spent a little too much time with one of his siblings, and his siblings' family. This was a lot, I guess, on this particular occasion, mixed in with his own family. Having a son with autism, that can't ever be easy, I'm sure, on a man. But we all get in the car and he drives us, and we start heading towards a local park, and it's just become a tradition now where he's like, all right, everybody, we're going to do a primal scream. We're all like, what? And he's like, on the count of 3, just scream as loud as you can for as long as you can. We were all like, all right, sounds good, Dad. And he goes, 3, 2, 1, both hands 10 and 2 on the wheel, white knuckle gripping it so hard. Every vein in his neck and his forehead is popping out. Never seen him scream as hard as he did on this particular day. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. My brothers and I are all pissing ourselves in the back seat. And it's just a family tradition. We're like, all right, primal scream time. If you're ever stressed out, it's too much, you just scream, let it out, you feel great.
Does Mama Chisholm join in?
Mama Chisholm does not. Mother Chisholm is too busy being like a social butterfly or whatever she's feeling like being that day.
Oh man.
Yeah, did you see Lookout Mountain when you were there? Did you go
I don't know if I
off the
did.
Railroad?
I think we might have driven by it, but my dad missed an exit, and that was when the primal scream actually happened. So we might have missed out on Lookout Mountain because of that scream.
It's kind of cool because at the top of Lookout Mountain, the Confederacy had like a little camp, and they could see these lanterns from the Union coming through.
They were looking out.
Yeah, and they saw these, and some dude comes running up. He's like, "Yeah, dude, like they're here. They're coming to fuck our shit up."
Confederate Paul Revere.
Yeah, Dick.
Wow, that's crazy, Chisholm. That he could have been Confederate Paul Revere if they won the war.
Yeah, sucks
Nobody
to be that
knows
guy.
his name now.
But
Dick, what a loser.
Dick McFangio was the name of the
say his name again.
That's a football name.
Dick McFangio.
That's a D coordinator for the Broncos in the 70s.
Dick McFangio.
General Dick.
Brothers with Jaden Daniels, actually.
Look up Dick McFangio on Google, and you will find the Confederate general who is at the top of that mountain. Unfortunately, ordered his men to the wrong spot, and the Union just ambushed them and really took care of their shit.
Wouldn't you want to just stay put, keep that high ground?
I don't know if this guy is real. All I'm seeing is Big Fangio. Oh my god.
Turner's got the seagull laugh out.
Oh, dude. All I'm seeing is Big Fangio.
No. Dick Mick Fangio. That's
yeah, he was Irish.
Dude.
Or Scottish.
Marcus, it's all Vic Fangio.
You guys have different Google subscription tiers, I think.
Here's the thing. It's kind of like the fucking debates this past election cycle. I wasn't being told that I would get fact checked on this bullshit.
Turner's got you there. Well, I don't know about you guys, but
so excited to learn about Dick McFangio. I couldn't believe he was a real guy.
He is, if you believe.
Okay, I can actually give you the actual name. I made it up, obviously.
It's Dick McFangio with Bailey Jennings.
It is Carter L. Stevenson.
Well, that fucking sucks, dude. This guy's Dick McFangio to me.
Yeah. 8,700 Confederate defenders at the Battle of Lookout Mountain were commanded by Major General Carter L. Stevenson.
I'm sorry I looked that up. D-Man, that's on me, man. I'm sorry about that. Oh, my God.
Yeah, D-Man, you deserved a more gracious host.
You had me hook, line, and sinker like Dick McFangio. Who the heck is this guy?
I will say I haven't been that excited for someone to exist in a long time. Probably since I was a child.
Oh, my God.
And Santa Claus is coming around. But before we get going, I know that we'll do this next week more in depth, but I did want to give D-Man the opportunity to end on a positive note here. Thanksgiving is a week from today, the day of recording. Or I guess the day that it'll be released, I should say. And every year around this time of year, Mr. Jones started a tradition of sending out some I love you mans. Kind of similar to Jimmy Fallon's thank you notes, but more so like the I love you mans of Paul Rudd and Jason Segel's film, I Love You Man. So, D-Man, are there any individual people, any groups of people, or, any institutions that you have love for that you would like to send out an I love you man to before we start wrapping up here?
Powell and the Fed.
There's a lot. I mean, as a typical politician, athlete, anyone of that nature, I'm going to say my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Bingo.
And then after that, we're going to go straight to J. Powell, or by his actual name, Jerome Powell, because he is the most powerful human being on earth. No one will take that away from him. He controls the supply of
You
money.
just want him to know that,
I mean,
in case he was wondering, D-Man loves him, and that always come back to be in your favor. This clip will live on.
yeah,
Yep.
like if he ever really wants to just screw us all, hopefully he'll just remember me.
Digital
Before-
footprint, man.
Yeah. It's like when you're dying on the cross, it's like, please remember me when you enter the kingdom. Please remember me when the apocalypse happens and I need money. I need something to feed my family.
That
Why
was-
have you forsaken me? Yeah.
Yeah, that's well said.
Jerome Powell. Faith, family, friends. Harold Wilson. Harold Wilson.
Are these
Your
I love
cousin?
you bands, or is this just
Yeah,
what
my
you're
cousin.
thankful for?
I love Harold. Harold's a good kid. How old is he now?
He's in 7th grade right now.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
He got any athletic bones in his body?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
why
going to
does-
be in
why does that-
taxes.
Why does that have to define a man, Jack?
It doesn't. It's
Well,
just
this
fun
is
to hear
a
if
college
seventh-
football
That's the-
podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just fun to hear if a 7th grader's fucking shit up. I don't know.
He's an incredible.
My cousin
hockey
Bo
player.
is.
Incredible.
Oh, that's what's
Hockey
up.
player? That's
He played-
sweet.
He's going to be a Des Moines Buccaneer before you know it.
Well, I mean, I'm
He's like
just
a
asking
baby.
what he likes to do. I mean, you could have told me he's a spelling bee guy, but I started with athlete.
Iridocyclitis.
He's an animal on the hockey.
Let's go. Let's go
Ring.
H-Dub.
So yeah, no, we love Harold
HD,
Wilson.
man.
I shouldn't forget his brothers, Sherrod and Simon. They're good people too, but Harold is in 7th grade. so
Harold takes the cake. Yeah.
it's his time to shine. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Come on.
Do your shit, Harold.
Wow. I love you, man. It's a little out of left field. Only one. I'll save the rest for next week. Rusty Kuntz, the
Mhm.
longtime first base coach for the Kansas City Royals. No longer to this day, but something that just crossed my mind today. I had a good chuckle and then thought back to a lot of the good ball players he coached with that Royals uniform on, and the path he paved to some World Series appearances. And so I just want to give I love you, man, to Rusty Kuntz. Gone, not forgotten. Not dead either.
Not forgotten.
But,
Yeah,
gone-
I was gonna say not
gone
forgotten
from-
is
gone from the diamond.
if any of you are Immaculate Grid fans out there, I know Marcus and I will share some banter on this from time to time. Rusty Kuntz, former
Rusty.
former first baseman for the Detroit Tigers. So if you ever need that, it's in your back pocket.
LaTroy Hawkins.
The GOAT. LaTroy Hawkins, Bronson Arroyo, another one.
Rich Hill.
Rich Hill, great
Rich
one.
Hill's played for everybody.
Yep.
I was
That's why you
actually
need
at Rich Hill's debut performance in Wrigley Field, Marcus. He went 5 1/3 inning.
No.
And the Cubs won on a
you were
walk-off.
at Rich Harden's. You were at Rich Harden's.
Rich Hardens. God damn it, you're right. But that's
I think
exactly what happened.
Rich-
5 1/3.
Rich
Good
Hill is
call,
my
Doc.
favorite. Rich Hill is my favorite nickname of all baseball players because his name literally translates to Dick Mountain.
Yeah, okay.
I'm playing the Immaculate Grid now.
All right.
Well,
I
that's
got
time to
one.
sign
I
off.
love
Hey,
you, man.
Go ahead.
I got
Chisholm.
one. I love you, man. I want to get it out there quick. My I love you, man goes out to a fictional character known as Doug Heffernan. I know that some people, the Kevin James photos were just a meme that passed them by. But for myself, for my younger brothers, and for the rest of my extended family in the Cap side, it is a way of life. The ability to work with no play. I don't know how people do it. I don't know how anyone does it where on this side of the river, we care a lot about what's for dinner and what game is going to be on the TV while we eat said dinner. And so I just wanted to give a quick shout out and kudos to Doug Heffernan. Just another heavy set guy that outkicked his coverage, getting carried to, say yes, I suppose. King of Queens, fantastic TV show. Got it on in the background as we speak. And so I'm going to start diving into that while I start to edit this. D-Man, thank you very much for taking the time to join us here. A full hour 40 we have gone now.
Thanks, guys.
Man. Folks, we look forward to an early taping next week for Thanksgiving week. There's that indigestion. I think it's time that we start wrapping this up and calling it. So, folks, don't forget, if you've got some I love you mans in your life, Mr. Jones, Mr. D man, I love both of you guys. Make sure that you get those extended out to the men in your life in honor of Movember this November. Don't forget to check out Cymbalta, but make sure you're talking to a doctor about that one first. And as always, fix your shit, get some Vienna beef in your life. Thank us later for it. Last but certainly not least, know there's a lot of travel coming up. If you do travel, call your parents, let them know you got there safely. And finally, if you still have some data to use up on your cell plan for the month, then do us at the Rent Money Podcast here and the Pop Off Podcast Network as a whole. Do us a favor and just tell your bookie that we say hi. Not